Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 161, Absolute Zero. The set card, it wasn't Cybernetic Revolution? As Jaden's turn ended, Bastion stared at the field in surprise. Zane's duels always revolve around summoning Cyber End Dragon, Alexis added, equally shocked. No, that's not how Zane duels. Atticus, who had once shared life or death bonds with Zane, instantly saw through it. Zane's dueling is logical and calculated. Jaden's deck is highly aggressive right now, so there's no way Zane would rush to summon Cyber End Dragon. Atticus smiled. He brings out a defensive monster first, weathers the storm, stores power, then seizes victory. That's Zane. As if an answer, Zane drew. Normal summon, Cyber Dragon Hers. A small cyber dragon appeared, its body wired with mechanical tubes and veins. Cyber Dragon Hers, Level 1 Light Machine 100 ATK. This card is treated as Cyber Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard. Then I activate the spell card. Machine Duplication. I target one machine-type monster with 500 or less ATK to special summon up to 2 cards of the same name from my deck. Ha! Shaz said, confused. Its name right now is Cyber Dragon. Zane raised his voice. I special summon 2 Cyber Dragons from my deck. The shadow of Cyber Dragon Hers split, then expanded into 2 fully formed mechanical beasts. Cyber Dragon, Level 5 Light Machine 2100 ATK. There are 3 Cyber Dragons on the field. Avian materialized beside Jaden, nervous. It's coming, Jaden. Spell card Polymerization. I fused the 3 Cyber Dragons on my field. Hoo-hoo-hoo-hurrah! Cyber End Dragon. The 3 dragons spiral together, transforming into a single massive, 3-headed mechanical dragon. Cyber End Dragon, Level 10 Light Machine 4000 ATK. Wah! Cyrus turned breathless. I knew it, Zane still summoned Cyber End Dragon. But why not use Fusion Gate and save polymerization? Simple, Hikaru interrupted. Zane didn't want to banish monsters. He wants to retrieve cards from the graveyard. Question mark. Their question was soon answered. Cyber Dragon Hers' effect, when sent to the graveyard, I can add 1 Cyber Dragon from my deck or graveyard to my hand. I add the last Cyber Dragon from my deck. Now, battle, Jaden. Zane grinned. Cyber End Dragon attack. Eternal Evolution burst. The triple-headed dragon charged energy and unleashed a fiery breath that incinerated the glowing hero. Jaden Yuki, LP. 3200. Now, the Shining's effect. When it's sent to the graveyard, I can return up to 2 banished elemental hero monsters to my hand. I retrieve Bubbleman and Sparkman. Interesting. Jaden. Zane laughed. So you've reassembled new fusion materials already? Then, Cyber Barrier Dragon attacks. ZZT. A refracted beam struck Jaden in the stomach. Jaden Yuki, LP, 3200-2400. Awesome. Zane is amazing as always. Jaden said excitedly, clutching his wound. Het said 1 card, end turn. Zane chuckled, setting a card face down. Jaden's turn. He drew. Beside him, Bubbleman appeared in spirit form, whispering, Jaden, leave it to me this time. Bubbleman, alright, let's do this. My turn, draw. I activate my field spell, Fusion Gate. I use its effect to fuse Sparkman and Bubbleman from my hand. Oh. Same materials again. What fusion monster this time? Zane was intrigued. Fusion materials, 1 hero monster and 1 water monster. Don't blink, Zane. This hero will send chills down your spine. Fusion summon Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. With Jaden's shout, a cold wind swept across the duel field. Alexis instinctively pulled her coat tighter as frost filled the air. A white-clad hero descended with a flourish, striking a perfect heroic arrival pose. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, Level 8 Water Warrior 2500 ATK. Hikaru sat upright right away, eyes fixed on the 3D projection. Seeing Hikaru so serious, his friends realized. This wasn't just any fusion monster. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero? Zane smiled faintly. Looks like you've grown, Jaden. But with only 2500 ATK, it can't match Cyber End Dragon. Ah, but Absolute Zero's effect isn't that simple. Jaden showed a monster in his hand. Time to play one of my favorites. I fuse Absolute Zero with Burstinatrix from my hand. Fusion materials, 1 Elemental Hero and 1 Fire Monster. I fuse Elemental Hero Absolute Zero and Burstinatrix. Question mark. The crowd was dumbstruck. Why banish a newly summoned monster? Fusion summon a hero born of flames. Elemental Hero Nova Master. From the blaze emerged a hero with arms crossed over his chest, who leapt down to Jaden's side. Elemental Hero Nova Master, Level 8 Fire Warrior 2600 ATK. Trading a 2500 ATK monster for 2600? Only 100 more ATK. Doesn't help against Cyber End Dragon. Some students were puzzled. Hold up, Hikaru interjected as his friends looked to him. That card's about to show its true power. That card? Now, I activate Absolute Zero's effect, triggered when it leaves the field. Oh? Jaden raised his hand. The fiery duel field suddenly turned icy again, frost spreading. Absolute Zero's effect, when it leaves the field, destroy all monsters my opponent controls. What? Destroy all monsters? Just by leaving the field? That's, whoa. The cold engulfed Zane's field. Every monster, including Cyber End Dragon, froze solid and shattered into ice crystals. So strong. Chaz stared wide-eyed. Just leaving the field means the effect activates? Whether by battle, sent to the graveyard, or fusion. Bastion was taken aback. How can something be so easy to trigger? Amazing. I knew dueling you for graduation was the right choice. Even as his field was wiped out, Zane looked thrilled. Fantastic, Jaden. Hahaha. Jaden sheepishly rubbed his lips with a finger. Lately, you seemed distracted. I wanted this duel to see what was going on. Now I'm at ease. Zane's smile didn't fade. He looked truly satisfied. Now I can leave this academy and face the new world ahead with peace of mind. Then, unexpectedly, Jaden, who had been so cheerful, froze. His hand, poised to continue, suddenly stopped. Chapter 162. One day you have to learn to part ways, and learn to say goodbye to me before that. Right before the attack, Jaden hesitated. Zane was right. Lately, he really had been a little out of it. Not just because of what happened in the other dimension, but because of the uncertainty about the future. Zane had actually said he was at ease now. Was it really the right time to attack? Jaden. As he spaced out, a voice called to him. He blinked and looked up, seeing Hikaru, who had stood up from his seat despite having been sitting calmly a moment ago. Hikaru? The others around them were surprised. When had they ever seen Hikaru so riled up as a spectator? One day, we'll all have to say goodbye. Before that happens, learn how to part with Zane. Jaden blinked, dumbfounded. Nearby, Zane, now looking at Hikaru, was moved by the shout. He lowered his head slightly, contemplative. So that's what it is. What did Hikaru just yell? Wow, I never thought Jaden would be like this. Hahaha. Atticus couldn't help but laugh. I thought Jaden was always so carefree. Turns out he overthinks things too. Jaden, Zane raised his dual disc, just like Hikaru said, one day we'll all go our separate ways. Before that, we need to learn how to say goodbye. Besides, parting now doesn't mean we won't meet again. Having been seen through by so many, Jaden felt a little embarrassed, but then, with his spirit flaring back up, he shouted, "Alright, Zane. Then I'll defeat you today, so you can leave with no regrets." Battle. Elemental Hero Nova Master, direct attack on Zane. Molten Nova. The proud warrior leaped forward, flames blazing, engulfing the field. Zane Truesdale, LP, 1400. Set 1 card, end turn. Watching the duel, Hikaru felt strangely lighter, the pressure on his chest easing a little. He knew this world well, and due to his knowledge of the original, he understood his classmates' hearts to a degree. In canon, Jaden also acted abnormally in this duel, that said, it was because he was trying to put on a perfect duel for Zane. But this Jaden had no such burden. His every move came from the heart. Which meant, when he hesitated like this, it wasn't about the duel. In the original, while Jaden and Zane had a good relationship, they only had a few interactions. Zane mostly regarded Jaden as a younger brother. However, in this world, they had spent nearly a year together in the Fusion Club, and Jaden saw the upperclassman who had always looked after him as a real brother. Naturally, he was far more reluctant to let go than in the original. If, due to selfish hesitation, Jaden hadn't taken this duel seriously, Zane, who valued and respected dueling so deeply, might never duel him again. No one wanted that. Well done, Jaden. Now, it's my turn. My turn, draw. At this moment, the effect of the different dimension capsule activates. It destroys itself and returns the banished card to my hand. A capsule slowly rose onto the field, cracked open, and revealed the card within. Pot of Greed. What? It wasn't Power Bond. Zane smiled. Against you, I can't afford to be careless with Power Bond. Pot of Greed's effect, we both draw 2 cards. He drew 2 cards from his deck. Jaden also drew 2. Both of them paused slightly when they saw one of the cards. Activate spell card, Pot of Avarice. Return 5 monsters in the graveyard to the deck and draw 2 cards. I return 2 Cyber Dragons, Cyber Dragondray, Cyber Dragonhers, and Cyber End Dragon to the deck, then draw 2 cards. The cards flew back into the deck. After a high-speed shuffle, Zane drew 2 cards and glanced at them. Normal summon, Cyber Dragon Veer. On the field, it's treated as Cyber Dragon. Activate the trap card I set, Cybernetic Revolution. Tribute a Cyber Dragon on the field to fusion summon a fusion monster that uses Cyber Dragon as material. Of course, I summon only one Cyber End Dragon. Buzz. Electricity surged around Veer, and moments later, a massive 3-headed mechanical dragon appeared on the field. Cyber End Dragon, Level 10 Light Machine 4000 ATK. A monster summoned this way can't attack directly and will be destroyed at the end of the next turn. Battle. Cyber End Dragon, attack Elemental Hero Nova Master. No way. I activate my trap card, Draining Shield. As the giant dragon charged, Jaden flipped his card. When a monster attacks, negate the attack, and I gain LP equal to the ATK of that monster. Jaden Yuki, LP, 2400 6400. Interesting, Jaden. Then I set 3 cards and end my turn. Draw. Cyber End Dragon will be destroyed at the end of this turn. Alexis watched the duel seriously. It felt like either side could win, yet she didn't want either of them to lose. This tension only made her more focused, more excited. But knowing Jaden, he's not the type to wait it out, Chaz said. Of course not. Jaden raised a card. A hero can't back down. Activate Fusion Gates effect. I fuse Avian in my hand with Clayman in my hand. Come forth, my friends. Let your power combine. Fusion materials, an elemental hero and a wind attribute monster. Let the wild wind of the wilderness blow again. Fusion summon elemental hero Great Tornado. A gust of wind swept across. A classically majestic golden, green, and black hero landed on the field, casting off his ragged cloak, Avian assuming a new form. Elemental Hero Great Tornado, Level 8 WAND Warrior 2800 ATK. When Great Tornado is fusion summoned, all of your monsters' attack and defense are halved. Cyber End Dragon, ATK, 4000-2000. Beautiful. Bastion clapped his hands and stood. If this attack hits, Jaden wins. Just like that. Jaden commanded, Avian, no, Great Tornado, attack Cyber End Dragon. Not happening. I activate Counter Trap, negate attack. Your monster's attack is negated, and the battle phase ends. Ah, dodged it. Alexis clutched her chest. That was intense. But at the end of the turn, Cyber End Dragon will be destroyed, Chaz added. Only if its effect isn't negated, Hikaru said casually. What? Quick play spell, Diffusion. This card returns a fusion monster on the field to the extra deck. Zane instantly activated his set card, sending Cyber End Dragon back. Impressive, Zane. Not a single crack in your defense. Jaden glanced at his hand. It was the card he drew earlier from Pot of Greed. I set 2 cards, end my turn. Interesting, very interesting, Jaden. Zane seemed to be burning with passion. He drew a card and activated. I set 1 card, then activate spell card to card destruction. We both discard our hands and draw the same number. He set a card. Both players discarded and drew. Then Zane immediately flipped the set card. Now, I activate the set normal spell Power Bond. It's finally here. But Zane, you only have a few cards in hand. Next, quick play spell Cybernetic Fusion Support. Pay half my life points, and I can banish cards instead of using fusion materials. Zane Truesdale, LP, 1400-700. I banish Cyber Dragon Veer from the graveyard, and a Cyber Dragon from my hand. Fusion summon, come back to me, Cyber End Dragon. Cyber End Dragon, level 10 Light Machine 4000 ATK. Due to Power Bond's effect, its attack is doubled. The massive dragon swelled in size. Cyber End Dragon, ATK, 4000-8000. 8000 isn't enough to end the duel. Atticus shouted. Jaden still has too much LP. Then let's increase it more. Quick play spell, Limiter Removal. All machine-type monsters' attack is doubled again. Cyber End Dragon, ATK, 8000-16,000. The dragon's body kept expanding. Soon, it was almost too massive for the duel field. A bead of sweat rolled down Jaden's forehead. 16,000 attack. Gasps echoed among the students. Battle. Cyber End Dragon attack Elemental Hero Great Tornado. Whoa. Even 8000 LP won't be enough. Jaden. Great Tornado gulped as the blast neared. I got it. I activate quick play spell Battle Fusion. If my fusion monster battles an opponent's fusion monster, it gains ATK equal to the opponent's ATK. Great Tornado's body surged with energy. Elemental Hero Great Tornado, ATK, 2800-18,800. 18,800. Oh my god. Mamma mia. But Zane didn't panic. He smiled. Same goal, different timing. I activate my set quick play spell Battle Fusion. What? Oh. Cyber End Dragon gains Great Tornado's attack. Cyber End Dragon, ATK, 16,000-34,800. 34,800. A student went pale. Others didn't even blink anymore. 30,000. Most of them barely ever saw 3,000. Could you even survive that? As expected, Zane. You're the best. Jaden shouted, thrilled. Het, Jaden, watching your duel, I can tell you've grown a lot, Zane smiled. Your time in the Fusion Club gave you a whole new view of fusion. So, Jaden's eyes sparkled. I don't want to lose. He shouted, Zane. The card you discarded with card destruction earlier, one of them was purple, right? Purple, don't tell me. That's right. Jaden cried out. This is my graduation gift to you as a student challenging a senior. As a member of the Fusion Club, this is how it has to end. Reveal set card. Final fusion. The artwork showed two massive dragons locked in combat. Ha, Jaden, afraid of losing? Zane saw the card and laughed warmly. When my fusion monster and my opponent's fusion monster battle, the attack is negated, and both players take damage equal to the combined ATK of both monsters. Great Tornado has 18,800 ATK, Jaden called out. Cyber End Dragon has 34,800 ATK, Zane replied. That's over 50,000 total damage. The teachers, professors, students, and even the principal froze, jaws dropped, as the arena was engulfed in blinding light. Only Hikaru, expecting it, had sunglasses on, smiling calmly. Within that blinding light, the two duelists exchanged their final words. Goodbye, Jaden. I hope I see you again on the pro circuit. Yeah, Zane. Don't worry, our Fusion Club will keep guarding Duel Academy. Boom. With a calm farewell, came a thunderous explosion. The final result? Both life points hit 0 simultaneously. Drawl. Chapter 163, Tiara's Good Ideas. The graduation duel ended perfectly. Many students witnessed a spectacular match that they might never forget. The explosion of the effect damage might remain etched in their minds forever. Because of this, after the third-year students graduated, the first and second-year students couldn't help but debate during this period. Jaden lost to my brother in one strike before, and now they tied. Jaden's progress is incredible. Shocking, really. Humph, but that just makes chasing him all the more fun. I'm really curious between Jaden and Hikaru now, who's stronger? Even the students of the Fusion Club couldn't help but chime in. One side claimed that if Jaden could now match Zane, he must have surpassed Hikaru. The other side argued that Hikaru had already beaten Jaden before, so you couldn't judge until they faced each other again. You've really been underestimated, Hikaru. Hurry up and make that guy Jaden kneel. Tiara snapped after passing by two arguing students. Go! Prove you're the true pinnacle of fusion at this academy. Hikaru gave an expressionless look and didn't respond. He was on the phone. Yeah, don't worry, he said to the person on the other end. Jaden's been relaxed lately, trust me. Hikaru listened to the question and replied, you know his personality. Since he already said goodbye to you, there's no way he'd still be hung up over it. Yes, Hikaru was on the phone with Zane Truesdale. By now, Zane had left the academy and joined a group, soon to enter the pro dueling world. When he left, Hikaru made sure to get his contact info, intending to keep in touch. In truth, he had sensed Zane's lingering unease, because there were still things Zane couldn't let go of. As for Cyrus, he's actually doing alright, Hikaru answered the key question while rubbing his chin. You know, ever since then, the Polymerization Club has kept a really low profile. After Aster Phoenix showed up, they went totally quiet. Mostly, they just use Cyrus as a mascot to recruit freshmen. But after a year of experience, most people don't fall for that anymore. Maybe they'll stir up trouble again once the new term starts. Hikaru didn't have any strong resentment towards Cyrus. Though in the original alternate dimension arc he was quite abstract, now he was just a bit of a cocky bottom-tier guy. Thanks to his unique style, and also because Hikaru had recommended him there, he didn't bear ill will toward the Fusion Club. Back when he was in the Polymerization Club, he mostly just shared some outrageous sketchbooks with classmates. High school boys liking female monsters? Totally normal. Even Chaz couldn't resist the Dark Magician Girl. Being a fan of hers was entirely typical. All in all, it wasn't a bad thing. As long as the Polymerization Club wasn't bullying others, it was fine. Sorry about this, Hikaru, Zane continued over the phone. This was supposed to be my responsibility, but I ended up choosing to duel Jaden instead. He had considered dueling Cyrus in the end, but couldn't let go of Jaden's state. So now, he had to ask Hikaru for a favor. He was still worried Cyrus would be corrupted by the Polymerization Club. Still, Hikaru didn't think that was necessary, who was corrupting whom was really unclear. Cyrus had great dueling talent. Outside of official duels, his win rate was the highest in the school. In the original, he could crush even Jaden in simulation duels. Everything considered, besides his cowardly nature, another large part of his personality was, well, perverted. The former made him a bit puffed up after being the club's figurehead for a while. The latter wasn't something that could change. Regardless, it wasn't really a big problem either. Hikaru believed it wasn't anything major since it's not like he was battling Yubel or Sartorius. If all he had to do was keep an eye on him, fine. So he simply said, "It's fine. If it's related to fusion, it's my business." Haha, now that's a reassuring answer, Zane laughed. After a while, Hikaru hung up. Tiara immediately pressed him again to challenge Jaden to an official duel. "There's no need for that," Hikaru said. "Even if we duel once or twice, it's just a temporary outcome." He glanced at Tiara, confused. She wasn't usually the type to care about her own reputation. Most of the time, she didn't even care about humans. To her, ordinary mortals were like air, only things she found interesting drew her attention. So far, Tiara's only interests in the human world were cards, dueling, and maybe instant noodles. Even though she had watched that entire duel the other day, she didn't react much afterward. Just a passing comment on how both humans were pretty impressive. Yet, today, she was insisting on him dueling Jaden? And even called him by name? That didn't sound like her. "You're not doing this on purpose, are you?" Haha, not bad, oh chosen of order." "You saw through me," Tiara chuckled, placing her hands beneath her chin with no hint of guilt. She really did want to see Hikaru prove he was the strongest. After all, he was her chosen one. Nevertheless, since her other intention was exposed, she didn't bother hiding it anymore. She really was doing it on purpose? Hikaru had only been fishing for a reaction, yet Tiara admitted it outright. Maybe, the moment she was found out, she gave up on scheming. Which meant she was sure he'd agree. Tiara leaned forward, hands under her chin as if resting on an invisible table. She raised a finger and said playfully, "Then I'll just say it straight, Amaki Hikaru." From that human called Jaden, I sensed a strong, terrifying darkness. It was hidden very well at first. I felt a glimpse of it once before, then again at your hospital, and during that duel, when the combined damage surpassed 50,000, I was finally sure. He holds a deeper, more terrifying darkness than I imagined. And now, it's awakening. She tilted her head and smiled, "This is the perfect chance. If you duel him now, you might even gain a super powerful card. And help you recover your energy faster, right?" Hikaru sighed. "You're not even hiding your agenda anymore. Still, an awakening of power?" It made sense. The appearance of the light of destruction, Yubel's return, Jaden's supreme king power awakening, it was all natural. Strange. You duel different people every day to absorb their energy. So what difference does it make if it's him? Tiara said, puzzled. "Ha! A true duel must begin at the perfect moment," Hikaru said softly. "That's why Jaden hasn't come to me for a duel either, right?" Tiara understood now. They wanted to fight at the most fitting, perfect moment. With everyone watching. Just like how Zane chose Jaden as his graduation duel opponent. Duelists, so interesting. Then you should gather more power. Look, that human already possesses light, wind, fire, and water. What about you? You only have darkness and wind. She was talking about Elemental Hero and El Shaddol. It's time to accelerate. I have a brilliant idea. Quick! Convert Captain Crystal into a fire attribute. She'd done this kind of thing before, she was used to it. Lady Winda. Captain Crystal couldn't take it and protested. Hikaru shook his head. He wasn't going to do something like that. Besides, he had already decided where to go and do next. Chapter 164, Looking for the Broken Dimension. Captain, how are you feeling? Lord Amaji, I don't feel anything strange. Inside the alchemy workshop, the Full Metal Alchemist questioned Gemnite Crystal to check the process's clarity. Once satisfied, he and the golden idol began laying circuits across his frame. Because Hikaru always called him Captain Crystal, everyone else followed suit. But no spirit dared call Tiara by name. Even now, they still referred to her as Lady Winda or Her Ladyship. Today, Hikaru was testing the final parameter. Not because he actually planned to transform Gemnite Crystal into El Shaddolgrista to complete some symbolic alchemy achievement. In truth, Hikaru had long used Crystal for testing various data. The main goal was to search for the DT spirit world. Though Crystal had never explicitly stated how their spirit world differed from the ones Hikaru had visited, Hikaru's interdimensional travels and summaries gave him a conclusion. Crystal's world was different from ordinary spirit worlds. Or rather, even spirit worlds had distinctions. Crystal once said their world was invaded, but the invader left after observing it, deeming it of no value or unworthy. From the lore of the DT world, Hikaru understood. After all, the DT world is Yu-Gi-Oh's most infamous dead zone. Countless champions met their end there. Even Tiara, the source of destruction goddess, died there. Alien invaders, reborn evil gods, cosmic deities, they all perished. In Crystal's world, their fractured dimension wasn't like other dimensions Hikaru had visited, which simply branched off the main spirit world. It was a form of isolation. Crystal had been infected by Shaddol and had to be quarantined. While waiting for rescue, the dimension was breached by Leo Akaba's forces, cutting him off from his original world. That world, that was what Hikaru sought. It was vast, revisitable, and ripe for exploration. If he could locate it directly, he wouldn't have to fabricate cards so laboriously. And he had also promised Crystal he'd help him find a way home. Tiara lounged nearby, piloting an imp flying lazily in circles. Soon, a voice called out, "All right, sample complete." "Thanks, Captain." "I should be thanking you, Lord Amagi." Captain Crystal stepped down from the sampling unit with a relieved sigh. "What began as my selfish request became your ongoing effort. I am deeply grateful." Don't be." "I had my own motives," Hikaru said with a smile. "If possible, I want to collect all El Shaddol cards at once. That'd be way faster than crafting them." He pulled out a card etched with constellations, a data fragment extracted from Captain Crystal. It was one of his recent research foci. Modifying and upgrading the dimensional gate was still too difficult for him since several attempts yielded no viable breakthrough. So, he pivoted to clearing up unfinished tasks. He inserted the card into the dimensional gate. It glowed faint green before fluorescent runes flickered. Spirits in the room turned back into cards and returned to his deck. Tiara clapped and dismissed her imp, floating beside Hikaru as the gate bathed them in light. In its wake, only a slightly recovered gladiator beast Undul and a snoring thunder dragon cub remained. Moments later, Hikaru fell through the air and landed with a soft thud as thunder rumbled all around, masking his landing. He landed on one hand, then stood and stretched. 10 meters? To his current body, that height was mildly numbing at best. With a few stretches, he was fine. Tiara hadn't even bothered to assist with her puppet strings. She was too distracted, curiously scanning everything. But when she finished looking around, her expression collapsed into a look of indescribable disappointment. It was the first time Hikaru had ever seen her look that way. At first, she was lightly thrilled. Then, upon seeing the unfamiliar scene, she was overcome with loneliness. Her eyes were filled with disappointment. Boring. At the same time, Captain Crystal's voice echoed, "Lord Amagi, this isn't my dimension. It doesn't even appear to be the isolated dimension I was sent to." "Is that so?" Hikaru nodded. Maybe it was a dimension Crystal had passed through. It certainly bore traces of his presence. Still. Hikaru crouched behind a boulder, leaned to peek, and scanned the dimension's interior. A swarm of machines was excavating, while countless figures bustled about. Some chanted slogans, others coordinated labor. Giant, inhuman-looking creatures loomed and shifted. Humans? Hikaru was surprised. Judging by scale, this dimension was tiny. The sky was only about 30 to 40 meters above ground. A textbook, fractured dimension. So why were humans here? And what were they digging? He squinted and studied more closely. That's when he noticed some war-familiar uniforms, Fusion Army. He blinked, stunned. Oh, Tiara tilted her head. I see. This dimension is contaminated. Those humans are mining the infected rock or something. I remember now, Crystal said. While under control, I think I did enter this fractured dimension. And the stuff. I understand, Hikaru nodded. As expected of Captain Crystal. Apparently, an accident had caused this dimension to be shadalified. Very fitting for card lore. While pondering this, Hikaru saw the Fusion Army rolling in a massive containment tank to the center of the terrain. They carefully opened it. Screams erupted. Black mist surged from the chamber. Bound, weak spirits were instantly corrupted, shrieking in agony. The land, too, was tainted. Even after clearing an area, the corruption spread. The soldiers scattered, trying to avoid being splashed by the black ichor. Bastards! Captain Crystal cried out, reappearing at Hikaru's side. His radiant white armor cracked with rage. All this pain, because of him. No, Captain, Hikaru narrowed his eyes. Don't get it twisted. This isn't your fault. The fault lies with those who abuse this power. And what we need to do is correct the mistake. Chapter 165, Puppet Soldier. How's the cultivation data today? A man in a white lab coat casually asked a passing soldier in a purple uniform. Same as always, excellent quality. The soldier's grin was practically audible beneath his mask. Nothing was easier than this. All they had to do was shove monsters under that massive incubation tank, then back away and watch as that dark power infected them. Boom! Just as he spoke, the entire base was rocked by a massive explosion, like a bomb had detonated. Screams and roars erupted immediately after. What the hell? The researcher barely had time to react before a purple-black puppet string pierced through his body. The soldier beside him jumped back swiftly, avoiding the strike, and raised his dual disc. With practiced motion, he swung it like a sword, slicing through the incoming puppet string. What's going on? Report now. Captain, the incubation tank is malfunctioning. The report came in distorted, followed by more screams and the sound of something tearing through the air. Damn it! He understood immediately. The monster inside the tank had gotten loose. This was no minor issue. He'd been briefed by higher-ups and knew how bad this was. Still, he shouted to his subordinates, "No panic. Small issue. Just like in training, activate all surveillance systems, record everything. Make sure we don't lose intel like we did at the last Allied base." Yes. Akak. Help me. Screams continued over the comms. Unflinching, he swiftly activated his dual disc to protect himself, rushed to the lab, barked for the doctor and guards to retrieve key data and machines, and threw them into the dimensional gate. After completing all this, he entered the gate with his core personnel. He knew this monster wouldn't be stopped until it infected every living being in the dimension. Only then could they return and slowly reclaim it with overwhelming force. It could take months. And he wasn't about to die here. Retreat first. Regroup later. Once he left, a green sigil glowed atop the dimensional gate. With a splat, the gate lost power and dimmed. They actually ran away. Captain Crystal fumed, his fury blazing. As a leader, you have no honor. Lord Amagi, let me go after them. He was getting heated. First, we need to rescue that spirit, Hikaru said, pointing at the massive incubation tank. Captain Crystal paused, then nodded. They would chase that bastard eventually, but the spirits here needed saving first. Hikaru hadn't expected that scumbag to flee so decisively. He had hoped to obtain a card like Raviel, Lord of Phantasms, today. Instead, the enemy didn't resist at all and just abandoned everything. Around him, the last cries of soldiers resisting slowly fell silent. A few puppet strings flew toward Hikaru but froze midair, unable to advance even an inch. Tiara glanced up coldly and said, "Isn't that obvious? Hikaru, you still don't get it?" To them, whether a soldier is human or not doesn't matter. Ah, so that's it. Hikaru's face grew colder. Captain Crystal, still fuming, didn't yet grasp the logic. He looked at Hikaru for clarification. "Captain," Hikaru said gravely, "to the Fusion Army, they only care about obedience. Whether the soldier is alive or even human doesn't matter." Now it made sense. With enrollment at Duel Academy dwindling, they no longer cared about actual students, and feigned interest while shifting strategy. Rather than spend years training students, it was far easier to control dual monsters directly and use them as soldiers. After discovering Shad Doll from him, acquiring the sacred beasts, and unlocking the ability to absorb spirit energy, they realized that making puppet soldiers was far more efficient. Ah, Captain Crystal's expression darkened. Realizing it all began with him, his gem heart turned cold. So even their own kind being turned into puppets is fine? Because they'd be more obedient that way? Monsters! Hikaru shook his head. Anyway, let's check the tank. Earlier, while hidden, Hikaru had asked Tiara to tamper with the tank. She wasn't very interested and didn't expect much reward, though she didn't refuse. She sabotaged the containment, accelerating the spirit's power leakage, loosening the seal. With only a slight break in containment, the protective field collapsed. The powerful Shad Doll energy inside would instantly flood the entire fractured dimension. Hikaru stepped out from hiding and approached the shattered tank. The spirit inside had already fallen out. Along the way, countless fully mechanized humans and spirits attacked, but he didn't lift a finger and enraged Captain Crystal smashed them all. Poor things. Abandoned and still forced to serve their masters, he muttered with contempt. "Don't pity them, Captain," Hikaru said. "They brought this upon themselves." Hikaru couldn't sympathize. Anyone who could work in a place like this, witnessing spirits suffering daily, couldn't be considered normal. As he reached the front of the tank, Captain Crystal's eyes widened in shock and rage. Gem Knight Lapis. Before them stood a massive, puppet string-wrapped spirit, a giant version of Gem Knight Lapis, nearly 2 or 3 times Crystal's size. Whoa, even Tiara, normally uninterested, raised an eyebrow. What a coincidence! Or was it fate? What a pity, Hikaru. If you'd come 2 months later, she might have been fully Shadolified, she said. She's still a Gem Knight. No. Hikaru retorted instantly. I should have come sooner. Captain. He raised his left hand. His dual disc activated. Yes. Captain Crystal responded, turning into light and merging into Hikaru. Simultaneously, the enormous Lapis raised her right hand. Puppet strings writhed violently. As she screamed, countless dual discs and decks flew to her arm, forming a dual disc the size of a person and a towering deck. Even now, it's not too late. Hikaru shouted. Spirit, let me free you from this pain. Duel. Puppet Lapis, LP, 4000. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Chapter 166, Gems and Shadow. Gem Knight Lapis is the healer of our Gem Knight Order. As Lapis slowly raised her hand, manipulating the puppet strings to draw a card, Captain Crystal began to explain. Usually, after our battles with other spirit factions, she handles the healing. Damn it! It must have been when I got infected. She must have tracked me through the dimensions to heal me, and that's when these bastards captured her. Amaji Hikaru could feel the frustration and guilt clinging to Captain Crystal's spirit. He had already been deeply remorseful upon realizing that his Shad Doll infection had been exploited by others. But seeing his fellow Order's healer spirit turned into this, it was unbearable. Fortunately, Hikaru hadn't arrived too late. If Lapis had fully transformed into El Shad Doll Grista, Tiara might have gained complete control over her, but Captain Crystal would probably never forgive himself. After all, spirits are spirits, once transformed, they almost never revert. In her current state, she resembled a sort of pseudo-Gemnite Grista. Lapis silently activated her puppet strings to begin her turn. The first card. A massive card fell from the sky, slamming into the ground and flipping upright. Brilliant fusion? Tiara chuckled. Hikaru, looks like you're about to get hit by your own card. Hikaru said nothing. Once he recognized that this was a fully transformed Lapis, he braced himself. Two cards glowed with a sizzling noise. Fusion materials are Gemnite Lapis and Gemnite Sapphire? Hikaru observed closely. With a twisted distortion, a fusion monster dangling by strings appeared on her field. Gemnite Aquamarine, level 6 Earth Aqua 2600 def. Ah, Brilliant Fusion activates. While Brilliant Fusion allows fusion summons using monsters from the deck, the summoned monster's attack and defense become 0. Gemnite Aquamarine, def. 0. Aquamarine on first turn, huh? Tiara nodded. Not bad for a defense play, it can bounce a card. Lapis then set 2 cards and ended her turn. Hikaru drew a card and glanced down, raising a brow. Yikes. This hand is a bit of a mess. He looked toward Tiara. She turned her head sharply away. What? You think I tampered with your hand? Me? Fair. Hikaru nodded. Sorry, instinct. So it's a natural draw. In that case, I activate the spell card, Shaddol Fusion. This spell is a fusion spell exclusive to Shaddol monsters. Normally, you send materials from hand or field to the GY. But if your opponent controls a monster special summon from the extra deck, you can also use monsters from your deck as fusion material. I send Shaddol Falco and Elemental Hero Avian from the deck to the GY to fusion summon. Fusion materials, a Shaddol monster and a wind monster. Fusion summon, El Shaddol Wendigo. Crackle. With metallic creaks, a mechanical dolphin emerged from the darkened earth, threads strung across its body. Before it, a pale, bloodless mechanical girl holding a black staff rose stiffly. El Shaddol Wendigo, level 6 WAND Psychic 200 ATK. Shaddol Falco's effect, if sent to the GY by a card effect, special summon it face down in defense position. With a screech, a mechanical falcon, still tangled in puppet strings, rose from the GY and was set face down in a haze of black mist. Battle. Wendigo, attack directly. Whoa, even 200 ATK can attack now, huh? Tiara laughed. The opponent only had 0 DEF, might as well. Wendigo wobbled, raising its staff, the dolphin leapt and crashed into Aquamarine's shield. Lapis visibly hesitated, confused by the current field, yet instinctively didn't stop the destruction. Once Aquamarine was destroyed, its sword and shield spun into a spiral and struck one of Hikaru's set cards. Then the dark, misty rock that was Falco flickered and returned to Hikaru's hand. Gemnite Aquamarine's effect, if sent from the field to the GY, target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. Hikaru didn't react. He didn't care which card got bounced. The whole point was to trade off Aquamarine's bounce. End of battle phase. Main phase 2. I set a monster. Hikaru summoned another blackmisted, face-down monster before he set a couple of spell/traps. Then I set 2 more cards and end my turn. Ah. Lapis opened her mouth, emitting a noise somewhere between a cry and a haunting melody. As her voice rang out, the entire fractured dimension shook violently. Spirits tangled in her puppet strings roared in agony. The mechanized, puppetized humans screamed as if having their life force drained. Lapis. No Lord Amagi. Though he detested those humans, Captain Crystal couldn't bear to see Lapis doing this. As the Order's healer, she should never stoop to this. But more than that, he couldn't bear to see her in such pain. Quiet already, ugh, this is unbearable. Tiara frowned. You're nothing like him. Not just Hikaru. You're nothing like the real Captain Crystal. She was clearly annoyed. And, even though defeating Lapis meant Tiara would gain massive Shad Doll power, she was visibly unhappy. You don't think Hikaru will lose, do you? No. That's not it. Captain Crystal blurted. I believe in Lord Amagi. He will save Lapis. Then shut up and watch. Or. Tiara glanced at Hikaru, her emerald eyes briefly flashing red. Her gaze pierced through into Captain Crystal's soul, stunning him into silence. Make your choice. Chapter 167, Glorious Discomfort. Gem Knight Lapis drew a card to begin her turn, then activated a continuous spell card. Scatter Fusion. Another fusion spell commonly used by Hikaru. It could only be activated if the opponent controlled a monster. Seeing it trigger, Hikaru narrowed his eyes and flipped a set card. Right now, I activate Quick Play spell El Shad Doll Fusion. This card can be activated once per turn. I can fusion summon an El Shad Doll Fusion monster using monsters from my field or hand as material. I fuse Shad Doll Falco on my field with Predaplant Clamitosundu in my hand. Fusion materials, a Shad Doll monster and a Dark monster. Descend now, Divine Echo, El Shad Doll Winda. Tiara lifted her hand lightly as a multitude of violet puppet strings fell from the sky, before a massive flying dragon materialized, and a phantom identical to Tiara stood before it. El Shad Doll Winda, level 5 DARK spellcaster 2200 ATK. Meanwhile, Scatter Fusion's effect resolved. Gem Knight Lapis and Gem Knight Garnet were sent from Lapis's deck to the graveyard. Like Brilliant Fusion, Scatter Fusion also allows fusion from the deck. However, unlike Brilliant Fusion, Scatter Fusion requires the opponent to control a monster, only allows summoning Gem Knight extra deck monsters, and cannot use Rock-type Gem Knights. With the fusion complete, a crimson figure landed, swinging a massive scythe and casting off its cloak. Gem Knight Ruby, level 6 Earth Pyro 2500 ATK. Nice. That means Lapis can no longer special summon monsters unless she destroys Lady Winda. Captain Crystal exclaimed. But Hikaru controls Wendigo. As long as it remains, it can grant a monster protection from battle destruction by special summon monsters. Lapis attempted to activate a spell card, but it failed. Either she didn't hear Crystal or was too far gone to understand. Realizing it, she instead chose to attack. Ruby slashed its scythe toward Winda. Wendigo's effect. Once per turn, it grants a monster protection from battle destruction by special summon monsters. Lapis ignored it. The puppet-wrapped Ruby continued its attack. With the attack came 300 points of damage, but not from Ruby. Puppet strings suddenly shot from the sky toward Hikaru. He raised his arm to shield himself. The gemstone-armored silhouette of Captain Crystal shimmered into view. The puppet strings sparked violently, stinging his flesh. Hikaru, LP, 3700. Oof. Hikaru winced. His right hand burned with pain. Normally, crystal support would shield him from dual pain. Despite that, this was different. Lapis had accumulated far too much residual energy, comparable to weaker sacred beasts. The power was unrefined and chaotic. Even so, Tiara offered no aid this time. He flexed his hand. Still numb. Lapis did not make further plays and ended her turn. Notice it yet? Tiara said. That spirit, she has no will of her own anymore. What's driving her is hate. Hatred for life, for the pain she endured. She tilted her head. That's why I said you should have waited 2 more months. By then, she would have become a full machine with no emotions. Of course, you're not wrong either. If you'd come earlier, she might still have her mind, and things would have been easier and less cruel. Right now, all she wants is to make others suffer as she has. She glanced sidelong at Captain Crystal within Hikaru. Which is why, in the end, you're just a fake copy. Crystal said nothing. Hikaru drew his next card. Tiara, you're not one to talk. When you first arrived in this world, weren't you fascinated? You're disappointed now because it's not the world you hoped for. Nothing familiar. That's why you're sad, right? Tiara closed her eyes and nodded. she had no reason to lie to Hikaru. Even after countless years alive, waking from that great slumber into an unfamiliar world left her lonely. She craved echoes of the past. That's why she was so thrilled upon acquiring Permise. And she had always disliked Hikaru's Captain Crystal. Partly because even though Crystal served Hikaru, he always insisted on returning to aid his own kind if he found them again. Also, partly because he wasn't the real one. Too similar, yet not quite. That made it worse. To Tiara, he was offensively off-brand. His aura, virtue, loyalty, they were all just close enough to be annoying. The original Captain Crystal never despaired from tragedy. He simply rose again and again, a deathless warrior who fought to the bitter end. Back then, she had tried to resurrect herself, to reset the planet's ecosystem and create lifeforms to her liking, leading to the native spirits' rise and rebellion. Captain Crystal, blessed by the entire world, became the celestial divine star dragon, gaining power equal to Tiara's. With countless allies, he defeated her and ended her reign again. If it were this Crystal who did it, she'd never forgive that. By contrast, Hikaru's purity made her waking world less insufferable. I switch Wendigo to defense position. El Shaddol Wendigo, 200 ATK 2800 DEF. I discard Thunder Dragon to add 2 Thunder Dragons from my deck to my hand. Then, I tribute Shaddol Falco to normal summon Thunder Dragon. ZZZZZT. A 2-headed lightning beast roared onto the field. Thunder Dragon, level 5 Light Thunder 1600 ATK. Now, I send it to the GY to special summon from the extra deck Thunder Dragon Colossus. The green Thunder Dragon faded, replaced by a jet black, berserking Thunder Beast. Its true spirit was sleeping in the workshop, so its projection appeared extra massive and menacing. Thunder Dragon Colossus, level 8 DRK Thunder 2600 ATK. Now with Winda and Colossus, Hikaru had completed the iconic Floodgate duo. While it might not matter here, it looked damn cool. Battle! Thunder Dragon Colossus, attack Ruby. Buzz. Just as the order was given, the puppet strings on Ruby snapped taut. A massive trap card on Lapis Field flipped face up. The artwork showed Ruby's gemstone blazing brightly. Gem enhancement. Captain Crystal recognized it instantly. Ruby's massive fists clenched. The puppet wires snapped her apart with a crack. As she crumbled to rubble, countless puppet strings plunged into the GY and yanked out a slumbering knight in blue armor, hurling him to the field like garbage. Hikaru arched a brow, Lapis's hatred ran deep. Gem enhancement. Tribute a Gem Knight to special summon another from the GY. Gem Knight Aquamarine, level 6 Earth Aqua 2600 Def. Cease battle. Hikaru ended the battle phase. He glanced at his hand. Everything was still within expectations. End turn. Chapter 168, Fake? Imitation? Unique. Lapis's turn. Her body didn't move. Puppet strings yanked a massive card high into the air, then slammed it down. Boom. With a thunderous impact, it transformed into a monster, clad in bright yellow armor. A monster Captain Crystal knew all too well. Gem Knight Tourmaline, level 4 Earth Thunder 1600 ATK. Next, she yanked another spell card into view. Gem Knight Fusion. Sending monsters from the field to the graveyard, she fused Tourmaline and Aquamarine. They spun into a vortex, and moments later, a taller, more imposing golden-armored warrior emerged. Gem Knight Topaz, level 6 Earth Thunder 1800 ATK. Because Aquamarine was sent from the field to the graveyard, she activated its effect, targeting Winda. And Gem Knight Fusion's secondary effect activated as well, she banished it to boost Citron's ATK by Tourmaline's value. Gem Knight Topaz, ATK, 1800-3400. Winda, unable to return to the hand, was sent back to the extra deck, like all ED monsters do. With an opponent's extra deck monster now gone, Scatter Fusion could activate again. This time, she fused Gem Knight Crystal and a fire monster. Dark flames erupted, revealing a magma-bodied warrior with a blazing red sword. Gem Knight Citron. Level 7 Earth Pyro 2200 ATK. Topaz advanced, puppet strings dragging it toward Colossus. Colossus can banish a thunder monster to avoid destruction. I banish Thunder Dragon from the graveyard. But Hikaru still took the damage. Hikaru, LP, 3700-2900. As the blow landed, Captain Crystal suddenly burst forth from Hikaru, intercepting the puppet strings. He didn't wait to be called, he threw himself in their path. Captain! Lord Amagi, he shouted, voice straining. You say this isn't my fault. That we must fix what's broken. But I can't just stand here doing nothing. Just like you chose to duel those twisted fusionists. Just like Lady Winda said. This is my duty. My honor. Let me end her suffering. Lapis stayed expressionless. Topaz attacked again. She could attack twice per turn. Amagi Hikaru, LP, 2900-2100. He banished another Thunder Dragon. More strings flew. Captain Crystal roared, intercepting them all, even biting them to hold them back. Still, Lapis showed no concern. She flipped a trap card. Brilliant fusion. The artwork showed a shiny gem alongside countless gems gathering into the center. She revealed a gem knight from hand, and used topaz and citron as fusion material. A swirl of gems, including one bearing Lapis's own hue, glowed from the dark. The fusion completed, giving rise to a radiant knight with a jewel-encrusted sword. Fusion materials, 3 Gem Knight monsters. Gem Knight Master Diamond, level 9 Earthrock 2900 ATK. Gem Knight Master Diamond's ATK rose by 100 for each gem and the graveyard. Lapis had 12. Gem Knight Master Diamond, ATK, 2900-4100. She raised her arm, commanding another volley of puppet strings. By all rights, Captain Crystal should have been overwhelmed. Yet he screamed defiantly, catching them all, refusing to retreat. In his ears, the wails of cursed spirits echoed. Come suffer with us. Why me? You'll feel our pain. I want to die. The words tore at him like scripture, a chorus of agony. Yet, he stood firm, shouting to the cursed spirits and corrupted humans alike. I am a knight of the Gem Knight Order. It is my duty and my honor to protect the weak. Bring me your pain. Bring me your fury. I will bear it all. From afar, Tiara lowered her cold gaze and nodded softly. Now that's more like it. Hikaru, LP, 2100-600. He looked skyward. Captain Crystal was now cocooned in threads, yet his eyes were unwavering. He was enduring it all. Truly. Hikaru could have protected Colossus with Wendigo's effect. Now, Lapis had no cards left in hand or on the field. Which meant his plan was complete. Ever since Lapis started lashing out, he realized her actions weren't rational. She just wanted to attack. If denied that, she'd destroy anything in her way. So his strategy was simple. Force her to run out of cards. Yes, Master Diamond's ATK was immense. So what? My turn. He drew swiftly. Time to end it. Spare Crystal more pain. I activate spell. Scatter Fusion. Same spell. Same cards. But a different purpose. I send Gem Knight Crystal and Gem Knight Tourmaline from my deck to the graveyard. Fusion summoned Gem Knight Prismora. A shining knight clad in a red cloak, wielding a lance and shield, emerged onto Hikaru's field. Gem Knight Prismora, level 7 Earth Thunder 2450 ATK. After activating Scatter Fusion, I can't special summon non-Gem Knight fusions this turn, but that doesn't matter. I activate my set trap, Fragment Fusion. Unlike the card of Union and Perfection, this was born of Crystal's suffering. I banish the fusion materials for a Gem Knight fusion monster from my graveyard, then fusion summon. This monster will be destroyed during the end phase. I banish Tourmaline and Crystal. Fusion materials, a Gem Knight and a Rock-type monster. Fusion summon, not the original, but a knight whose glory matches the real one. Gem Knight Zirconia. Come forth. Zirconia? Tiara glanced at the card, then at Hikaru, and softly smiled. Gem Knight Zirconia, level 8 Earthrock 2900 ATK. A knight meant to be dull, dim, imperfect. Yet now, he glowed brightly, his armor cracked, while beneath the fractures, he shone even brighter. Prismora's effect. Discard a Gem Knight card to destroy a face-up card on the field. I discard Gem Knight Sapphire and destroy Master Diamond. Boom! The Night King stared silently into Prismora's mirror-like shield, then vanished. Now. All-out attack. It's over. Let us end your pain. As Hikaru gave the command, Crystal pulled in all remaining puppet strings, binding them to himself. Lapis, LP, 4015-50. The countless puppets collapsed all around. Yet Crystal caught every thread. He didn't let them fall as they remained upright, held by his will. Slowly, the strings retracted, vanishing into his body. He had borne it all. Ha! Tiara chuckled. I was wrong. He's not a copy. Not a mockery. Hikaru. He's your own, one-of-a-kind dual spirit. Of course he is, Hikaru said. Chapter 169, Further Mastering the Opportunity of Fusion? The duel ended. Hikaru put away his cards and looked around. Most of the spirits were slowly recovering. These must have been the ones recently brought in for puppetization, so the process wasn't deep yet. They should have time to recover gradually. But the humans? Perhaps the grudge held by Lapis was too strong. Even the possibility of reversal was slim. If Hikaru were to personally attempt to shatter and sublimate them, it wouldn't be impossible to restore them, but as previously stated, Hikaru wasn't that kind. With hatred that intense, Hikaru found it hard to believe they were innocent. Captain Crystal slowly descended from the sky. Its knees buckled, nearly collapsing, but a hand caught it at that moment. Turning back, it saw the grinning flame swordsman and the arms-crossed Dark Flare Knight. The two had always followed Hikaru, standing guard by his side. When Captain Crystal rushed in to absorb all that pain and resentment, they naturally stepped in to protect Hikaru from attacks. Now that the duel was over, they flew over at once. Ha, you brat, you nailed it. Flame Swordsman laughed heartily, patting Crystal's armor. Dark Flare Knight chuckled lightly from the side. They were Hikaru's earliest spirits. Soon after, Captain Crystal and Full Metal Alcest joined the team. The four of them joined around the same time and got along well. The three warriors who handled external combat naturally grew close over time. Seeing Crystal perform like that, they cheered for him. It left Crystal feeling a little embarrassed. He glanced back at the massive Lapis and, seeing it slowly shrink, let out a breath of relief. With Flame Swordsman's help, he approached Hikaru and knelt on one knee. Lord Amagi. Captain, what are you doing? Captain Crystal coughed a few times. Clearly, he hadn't fully recovered. His voice was steady, as if preparing himself. Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight understood immediately. Lord Amagi, please allow me to follow you always. Hikaru blinked. Crystal had always followed his own principles as a knight. Until today, he had longed to return to his original world to protect his kin. He had, truthfully, been thinking of only himself. Until today. When he finally realized his accident was no ordinary incident, and that he had caused countless disasters, bringing pain to many humans and spirits. Even if it wasn't his fault, seeing Lapis suffer like that, he couldn't ignore it. As Lady Winda once said, he should not be lost in confusion. What he needed was to relieve suffering and punish evil, just like Lord Hikaru always did. Please allow me to follow you always, to be your retainer, to learn from you, to punish evil alongside you, and bring justice. Hikaru was dumbfounded. He raised his hand to reach out and said, Captain, don't do this. You've always been one of us. Compared to Crystal, Hikaru was too modern-minded to grasp the whole knight mindset. The two swordsmen had expected this. One led Hikaru forward, while the other handed him a sword and instructed him on how to accept Crystal's vow properly. Then, Crystal solemnly swore eternal loyalty to Amaji Hikaru, to serve until death. When he finished, his body wavered and collapsed with a thud. "Captain? Crystal!" The two swordsmen were startled. On the side, Tiara raised her hand casually. Several puppet strings flew out, wrapped around him, and with a pop, turned him into a card. "See, Hikaru? I told you. You should have just turned him into a fire attribute already," she whispered near his ear. "Look at him, absorbed too much power and grief, and knocked himself out." Hikaru raised an eyebrow. He carefully took the card and looked at it. The two swordsmen leaned over to look as well. "Oh ho ho! Is Captain finally becoming a fusion monster too?" That's more like it. A Knight of his Lord should definitely be a fusion monster." Even the usually quiet Dark Flare Knight chimed in. Hikaru rolled his eyes. What a joke! Without fusion materials, how was he supposed to fuse anything? Was he supposed to open every duel with instant fusion? Still. He looked at the card, now with a purple background and tangled puppet strings in the artwork. He wasn't as panicked as he was when it was Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem or Armityle the Chaos Phantom. For one simple reason. Gem Knight fusion cards didn't require specifically Captain Crystal. As long as the fusion material included a Gem Knight monster, it worked. He still had several lower-level Gem Knights, and missing Captain Crystal wouldn't be a problem. Even if Crystal became El Shaddol Grista, Shaddol fusions required a Shaddol monster and a monster of the appropriate attribute, so fusion materials wouldn't be an issue either. Quite the opposite, Hikaru put the card away. If Crystal did become Grista, that would be a real boost. "Captain, take a rest. When we return, Alcest and I will examine you again and refine your core." "Much appreciated," Crystal said weakly. With that resolved, Hikaru was about to check the state of the spirits in this dimension, when Tiara suddenly turned to the two swordsmen and said, "Hey, you two. I heard from Hikaru that you were his very first spirits, right?" She extended a hand. A purple string emerged from her fingertip, tracing her movements as it slowly formed a data chart. "Why haven't you two shown any big changes until now?" she asked, clearly confused. "Even gods had questions. When I checked you last time, you were already showing signs of evolution. Yet after all these months, aside from wider swords, thicker armor, and a steady rise in spirit energy, there's been no breakthrough." She drew a chart with a steady growth curve that flattened out. "Today, even Crystal has evolved. What's up with you two?" Though Crystal's growth came from absorbing huge amounts of grudge energy, their lack of growth still baffled Tiara, making her start scolding. "Well, Your Holiness, I don't know either." Flame Swordsman scratched his head, baffled. Dark Flare Knight simply shook his head. He had thought about it. "It's fine. Steady growth is a good thing." Hikaru wasn't bothered. Flame Swordsman always got himself into trouble. Couldn't he enjoy life a little? It's not like there was no progress. Hikaru had also been considering this. The two swordsmen did have evolutionary trends. However, unlike other spirits who underwent breakthrough transformations, their growth was stable and continuous. At first glance, it might seem they lagged behind. While in hindsight, Hikaru could understand. It was simple. Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight had followed him from the beginning, and from the start, they fully embraced his ideal of fusion. Their hearts aligned with Hikaru's. They didn't need breakthroughs. They had always supported him, no complaints about dirty or flashy work, even fighting parasites. Plus, their base forms were already fusion monsters. To this day, Hikaru had never used super polymerization on fusion monsters. Once you became a fusion monster, it was as if you were certified, safe from harm. On the flip side, maybe mastering higher-tier alchemy or even unlocking super polymerization was precisely the path forward? Chapter 170, Discover the Secret. With Captain Crystal's situation resolved, Hikaru explored the fractured dimension with the help of his two swordsmen. Most spirits remained unconscious or near death, while the puppet soldiers of the fusion army were scattered across the ground like shattered dolls. Brutal. Far too brutal. He lifted a fragment of rubble that had once been the card puppet Lapis used. Now, it was just a splintered stone, fallen into this broken world. Hikaru searched for quite a while before finding a small spirit amidst the ruins. It still bore traces of a shad doll form, but had largely reverted to its gem-knight appearance. Tiara glanced over and said to Hikaru, even though its hatred and power were absorbed by Captain Crystal due to losing the duel, it barely had any consciousness to begin with. Awakening it might take a few months. Which isn't too long, right? To her, a few months might as well be a blink. Captain, can I leave this to you? Please leave it to me. Despite being too sore to move properly, Crystal gladly accepted the task. In fact, this job was meant for him. Under Tiara's control, Lapis and the other spirits were turned into cards. Hikaru rummaged through his dual disc, but most of the cards had been fused into that massive deck. Still, this wasn't a huge issue. Even if those massive cards couldn't be slotted into a normal dual deck, Hikaru could just re-refine and resize them. He definitely wanted to recover Gem-Knight Master Diamond and the cards for Ruby and Citron. If he got lucky, maybe he'd even extract something weird and interesting from them. After that, Hikaru visited the Fusion Army's temporary base. Since this base lacked experimental facilities and was mainly used to convert puppet soldiers, Hikaru didn't find any valuable research materials. Sigh. Tiara exhaled in disappointment. Last time, at the Union hangar, she discovered the Fusion Army was experimenting on artificial dark magician spirits, and even found a dark magician card. She used that excuse to ask Hikaru to build a new body part for her. Since arriving in this broken dimension, she had been bored and was hoping to find something useful. In the end, she found nothing. This place really was just a military factory. Even so, Hikaru thought the opposite. He found way more valuable intel here than he expected. On a computer they hadn't had time to remove, he discovered information about Leo Akaba. Since the Sacred Beast incident, or even before that, Hikaru hadn't seen Leo Akaba at all. In fact, not just Hikaru. Even the Kaiba Corp investigators hired by Chaz hadn't seen him. Once those investigators discovered that Leo's research team was connected to the Princeton group, Chaz decided to become the group's leader. Kaiba dumped the matter entirely on him, said it was a family affair, and told Chaz to handle it. Though knowing Kaiba, maybe he just wanted to test Chaz's mettle. In any case, since then, aside from Leo once warning him through Kanbayashi Kanami's body, Hikaru hadn't heard a word about him. The academy, the polymerization club, they seemed to have been handed off. Leo himself had disappeared. Now, while searching the computer, Hikaru discovered Leo hadn't forgotten about the raid on the XYZ dimension. He was in his stronghold, preparing for war. Seriously? So soon? Hikaru studied the report. When exactly was the invasion? He combed through it. Couldn't find a date. Maybe it hasn't been decided yet? Hikaru pondered. In ArcV, it was Aster Phoenix who led the Fusion Army to invade the XYZ dimension. That said, the exact timing was never made clear. Logically, it should be during Aster's third year. That would make sense. But Aster wasn't an ordinary duelist. Even if he became a commander as a freshman, it wouldn't be that surprising. Hikaru recalled how the pro-duelists of the Fusion Army had once invited Aster to join them. With that in mind, he hurried to search for any information on Aster. And he found it. Hikaru stared at a lengthy report, full of over-the-top praise for Professor Leo Akaba. It was clear the writer idolized him. Regardless, the important part was the content. According to the report, Leo had made a deal with someone to have Aster assist them. Despite that, not only did Aster not help, but he actively opposed them. This was a major breach of contract, so the two sides decided to settle it. Of course. In this world, a settlement only meant one thing, a duel. Aster's affiliated group, that must be. Obviously. The Society of Light. A grin spread across Hikaru's face. The kind of gleeful grin that said he lived for watching villain infighting. Tiara tilted her head, watching him giggle at the computer, confused. What could make Hikaru, who only cared about fusion, this happy? There weren't even any new cards. Hikaru didn't notice her look. He kept reading. The report didn't include the duel's outcome. Just some words from the professor. Which means, at the very least, they didn't win. Hikaru nodded. Given the report's style, if Leo's side had beaten the Society of Light, there'd be no reason to hide it. They'd be shouting it from the rooftops. Albeit, one line caught Hikaru's eye. The professor said they gained even more light from their opponents? So they won overwhelmingly? Massively? Evidently, rhetorical. But knowing Leo, losing a duel yet claiming victory wasn't out of character. And the meaning behind those words made Hikaru narrow his eyes. Could it be? He thought of Selena. In the original, Leo never said Selena was his daughter. He just valued her. However, in this world, he openly called her his daughter, using that to pacify and manipulate her, shaping her into a heartless dueling machine. He went beyond the original. Could it be Leo Akiba himself was infected with the light of destruction? Everything started making sense. No wonder the XYZ dimension, Synchro dimension, and this world didn't feel like splintered off realms. He wanted a dimensional war. If the goal was to unite his daughter, he'd only need to find the 4 counterparts. But Leo Akiba just wanted war. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.